You're listening to the Play Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks, your source for centered and focused play therapy coaching.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brenna Hicks, the Kid Counselor. This is the Play Therapy Podcast where you get a masterclass in child-centered play therapy and practical support and application for your work with children and their families. In today's episode, I am answering a question from Margaret in Indiana, and her question is about credentialing, which I feel like, yet again, I'm being bombarded with credentialing questions, so it's something that I clearly need to cover in an episode. So, Margaret from Indiana, thank you so much for reaching out, and thank you for inquiring about whether or not it's necessary and just kind of touching base about the need for it. So let me read her question, and then I'll share some thoughts. So she says she's a provisionally licensed social worker in Indiana. She's working in an elementary school. And the question is, when I was in grad school, I had no intention of working with kids. Many of us didn't, right? And therefore, we didn't take any classes about child development. I'd love to become an RPT, but I'm feeling discouraged to see that my grad school classes do not meet APT requirements, so I would have to go back to school. I'm pretty late to the game, and I have so much student loan debt as it is. So I guess my question is, how important do you think credentialing is? I'm sure I can't legally call myself a play therapist, but can't I just document it as child-centered therapeutic play? What are your thoughts? All right, Margaret, thank you so much. And this is the commentary I've been getting a lot lately, is I don't think I can call myself a play therapist. So let's start there because I want to dispel this myth. There is nothing proprietary about the title of play therapist. Someone can throw some board games and an anatomically correct doll into a playroom. Speaking of that, in our coaching program, we were talking about why we don't understand that every play therapist, wannabe play therapist, thinks they have to have anatomically correct dolls to do their job. So that was actually a nod to a conversation that we had in the cohorts. But you can put some toys in a room and say that you do play therapy and say that you are a play therapist. So there is nothing proprietary about using the term play therapist. So it does not matter what your degree is in. It does not matter what your license is in. It doesn't matter what your training is in. You can say that you provide play therapy. You can say that you are a play therapist. Now, I don't recommend people doing so when they have no training and no background and no skill set. And unfortunately, it's happening. So if you remember back in an earlier podcast episode where I talked about RPT, I said that RPT serves a purpose because it communicates to the world that those with RPT after their name actually have extensive training in play therapy. So I think RPT is valuable because it actually distinguishes those who have taken the time and gone through the training, gone through the supervision, gone through the education to actually be competent at play therapy. So I do believe in the value of RPT credentials. However, you do not have to have any credentials to call yourself a play therapist. So I want to make that very clear. That would be similar to saying someone who is licensed as a massage therapist, for example. They might also say that they provide cranial release therapy. CRT. So they might say, I'm a CRT practitioner, but it's just something that they do in addition to their license. You have to be a licensed masseuse, right? But then you might know how to do CRT, and you may add that as something that you offer. So, Margaret, you said that you're working toward your social work license. So you would be in Florida, it's an LCSW. I'm not sure what you all have as an acronym in Indiana, but in Florida, it would be LCSW as your license, and then you would be a play therapist. So I think right out of the gate, we have to understand, and even my international listeners and my international participants in the coaching program, they are hesitant to say that they are a play therapist. Don't be. You can say that you are a play therapist if you provide play therapy. End of story. So wanted to make that really clear. Let's dive a little bit deeper, because if you say that you are a child-centered play therapist, that's even better. So it shows that you have a very specific theoretical orientation and that you provide play therapy. So a specialized Niche is important. So if you say that you are a child-centered play therapist, it differentiates you even more. Now, you still have to lead with your degree and your license. So you would say that you are a master's degree LCSW, for example. So I'm not sure if when you said, can I just document it as child-centered therapeutic play, Margaret, I'm not sure if you're saying, can I document it for insurance purposes, for reimbursement purposes? I'm not really sure what you mean by documentation. But you are obviously going to have to use your license, or at least in your case, your internship, for what you would be able to document in the way of why you're practicing. Okay, so you're always going to lead with your degree and your license. But then you can say that you're a child-centered play therapist in addition to that. And then finally, you are mentioning you would like to become a registered play therapist, but your classes won't count, and so you'd have to go back to school, and you already have debt, et cetera, et cetera. Here are my thoughts, and you know I often just voice an opinion, so you all do your own research and your own investigation and decide what you think. Don't just listen to me. However, I think that our field is full of training and programs and coaching and certifications and credentials and whatever. And a lot of us are spending a lot of money and we're not getting the outcomes that we want. So let me clarify what I mean. I've had a lot of you all reach out to me that have become child-centered play therapists, certified therapists. So you are CCPT certified through UNT, which is arguably the best there is in the way of getting child-centered training. And you all are reaching out to me saying, I still have so many gaps. I still didn't learn how to communicate to parents. I still don't understand how to run a private practice. I'm still not understanding themes well. I'm still not able to implement XYZ. If we're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on training, and sometimes that's just workshops and conferences and CEUs and everything. Sometimes it's not even extensive training programs. Sometimes it's just here and there and everywhere. We're getting all of this education. If we're spending all this money and it's not getting us to the point where we are confident and competent and articulate and capable and effective, and we run effective practices and we do effective clinical work, if we're not getting there with the money that we're spending, then there's something wrong. So my 2 cents, whether solicited or unsolicited, Margaret, you solicited it, so the rest of you, it's unsolicited, but don't spend money needlessly and aimlessly. Put your money into investments that are going to benefit you, both personally and professionally. And in my opinion, Margaret, from what it sounds like, from what you're describing, putting a whole bunch of money in going to school so that you can become an RPT may not be the best fit for you, either right now or maybe not forever. So my argument is you need to take child-centered training. That's it. Don't waste your time going to conferences that are talking about the marriage of CBT with whatever. Don't go to conferences about humility in the playroom. Don't go to conferences about how art therapy and music therapy can be integrated into play therapy. You know how I feel about eclecticism, so I'm not going to rant on that again. If you are going to be child-centered, then you take only child-centered training, because exclusive child-centered training is going to make you an amazing child-centered play therapist. And then it doesn't matter what your credentials are, because people are only going to care about how you can help them. So if you are wanting to hone your craft, become the best you can be at child-centered play therapy, put your money there. I would not go the RPT route, especially if it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. I wouldn't necessarily go the child-centered play therapist certification program at UNT either. Not to knock on that. I've had a lot of you reach out and say that you still need a lot of training, which causes me to feel curious, causes me to have a little bit of concern. So, and this is what I know. RPT is extensive training, but it's almost always filled with eclecticism. Because to get your hours, you have to take all kinds of training, and the likelihood that all of your training is going to be child-centered is slim to none. So really, RPT means you have a lot of play therapy background, but you might not have any theoretical grounding whatsoever. It doesn't make you a good therapist, it just means you have RPT after your name. Here's what I know about the CCPT Certification program. They've only graduated 170 certified therapists. There are only 170 CCPT certified therapists that have gone through the program. That's such a small number for the amount of child-centered play therapists there are. Only 170 have become certified. So here's what that tells me. There are tons of us, which means us, meaning all of us that love child-centered, all of us that listen to this podcast, that are part of the CCPT collective, that are in the six-figure coaching program, all of you all, my people, my tribe, right? We are all looking for direction of how to hone our skills from the child-centered perspective. And that's all you need to do, Margaret. Focus only on that. Spend your money wisely. Get involved in groups and trainings and productive things that you can do with your time and money, because that's what's going to make you a better child-centered play therapist. So those are my thoughts, Margaret. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful to all of you. Don't let your lack of play therapy training prevent you from calling yourself a play therapist. Be proud of that. If you provide play therapy, you're a play therapist. Embrace that, love it, be proud of it, and promote that, because that's how our field grows. And then invest your time and money in worthwhile things. If you, Margaret, or any of you feel like you want support, if you want training, if you want coaching, please go to playtherapynow.com. There are all kinds of things that we're working on. The collective is one of them. Obviously, the six-figure program is one of them. We actually have created a certification program called Play Therapy Professional, and it is specifically for child-centered play therapists. So if you need support, training, coaching, supervision, consultation, anything, please go to playtherapynow.com and check it out. Number one, you can sign up for my newsletter. So I would love to be able to get in touch with you and let you know what's going on in my world and in the child-centered play therapy space. But also you can check out all the other things that are going on. So just a reminder, the collective call is on Fridays at noon Eastern time. So if you would like to join and check that out, we would love to have you. We've had new people every week since we launched. So that's exciting. And that's been a really amazing time on Fridays. Also, to let you know, we are going to be adding a second day and time where we meet Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern. So for my international participants and anybody that may not be able to make the middle of the day on Friday, in a couple weeks, we're going to launch a second time that we meet, which is Mondays at 5 Eastern. So please go to playtherapynow.com, check out all the things we have going on. And this is an absolutely amazing time to be a child-centered play therapist. I am so excited about the journey that all of us are on. I'm excited about the learning and the growing and the development that's taking place. I'm actually next week, this kind of makes me sad, it's bittersweet. Next week, I'm graduating my first group that started in the six-figure play therapist coaching program. They were with me for an entire year, and next week is their last week, and we're all sad about it, but it has been an absolutely incredible experience. And let me tell you, the ladies that started on that first group last March, they are not the same therapists that they were when they began. Their confidence, their competence, their communication, their articulation, their knowledge, their ability to run a private practice, their ability to work with kids and their families, they have blossomed in front of my eyes, and it has absolutely revolutionized their practice and everything that they do professionally and personally. And what an honor and joy it has been to watch that. So I'm so happy for them. I'm so proud of them. And I know we don't say we're proud of people from a child-centered perspective, but I really, truly am proud. And so to be fully adherent to the child-centered model, and they should be proud of themselves. All right. Love you all. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Play Therapy Podcast with Dr. Brenna Hicks. For more episodes and resources, please go to www.playtherapypodcast.com.